So your projects aren't making the profits they're supposed to be making. And of course, like most contractors, you're probably blaming the estimators, right? All joking aside, there are a lot of reasons why the estimating department is a major result of you not making the profits out in the field. So in this video, we're going to talk about 8 different reasons why your estimating department may be the cause of you not making profits out in the field. I'm Jerry Aliberti, owner of Pro-Accel. I've been in the New York City construction market for over 20 years. I've personally, as a senior estimator, estimated over $10 billion worth of work. I've also ran over $300 million out in the field. So I'm very qualified to understand exactly what's going wrong in your estimating that's resulting in bad profits out in the field. So if you like this video, please like it. If you like my videos in general, I hope you subscribe and please comment because I would love to know your thoughts on this video. So let's get into it. 1, you just don't have a qualified team. Most contractors around the entire country are having problems finding qualified estimators. Everybody wants to be out in the field. Nobody wants to be in the office. Being in the office requires you to sit at a desk all day long. You know, let's face it. Most people get into the business because they want to be around the large equipment. They want to be out in the field. They want to have all their gear on and they want to be out in the action. So finding qualified estimators is a really tough challenge. When you are able to find that unicorn who has that field experience, very, very important, who has field experience, who comes into your estimating, you need to be able to hire them quickly. I know this comes with cost, but you need to understand that having qualified estimators is critical, absolutely critical to the success of your business. Many years ago, contractors, even large contractors, were able to bid jobs at 15, 20, 25%. It's more competitive nowadays. There's a lot more contractors. You have to bid at smaller profits. So you need good estimators who understand how to estimate, who understand all the logistics and how to interpret specs and plans to put together a good estimate. A good estimate. Next, you're using bad historical data that's probably done by a bunch of morons out in the field who don't really understand how to even put together a budget to get that budget back to the office. Again, guys, I've been out in the field. Most project managers have no idea how to put together a cost budget. They're just not properly trained. They have no idea how to estimate a job. They have no idea what the estimator is even looking for. And most bosses don't want the estimators to get involved in the field, so they don't give that time in a day for the estimator to kind of explain a little bit what they're looking for on the project management side. Also, project managers feel like they're being pushed in a corner. They're being asked to come up with budgets and historical data because they feel that maybe the company wants to come after them and say, well, why aren't we making the money? Why are you doing it this way? And question them. Most can't take that constructive criticism. So it's important to let them understand why you're looking for that historical data and why it's important, but also train them to give you proper historical data, to give you real unit prices. So you need to train them. You need to let them understand why it's important and let them understand that you're not trying to push them into a corner and you're trying to increase accountability or anything like that. It's really to understand what are we actually really doing out in the field versus what's in the estimate. Because the estimators are gonna feed off that historical data, although they should be tweaking every job, and I'm gonna talk about this in later steps, based on the nature of that project. Next, you don't really fully understand your overhead. Putting in your management, putting in your insurance costs, all that is pretty typical. But if you're bidding on large work, right, and you're different and each of your scopes of work have a foreman, for example, baked into it, have operators baked into it, do you really have a full-time foreman, a full-time operator for the life of the job if you really need one? Or a driver who's going to be supporting other subs and other trades. You know, you may have a 12-month project, but you may only have a foreman or an operator or a driver baked into the bid at 6, 7, 8 months or so, where your overhead needs to pick up that difference. because you're going to realize at the end of the job that your foreman and those different trades are there for the life of the job, although they're not productive every single day. And that's where your profits start to run away from yourself, from you. So that's where a good skilled estimator understands the nature of the project and how long those core key trades are going to be a part of that project as well. Also, there's different overhead costs like punch list. You should have, if you're a larger contractor, you should have percentages for safety equipment, for punch list work, and for small tools, where for every dollar spent on labor, for example, a quarter of a penny is associated to that per dollar amount of labor that accounts for all these miscellaneous things that will be required on your project. It's going to add up to be tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of dollars if you're really bidding big work. So understanding your overhead as you start bidding larger work is critical. Next is you're just throwing in bids without really fully understanding specs and plans. Guys, I've worked for different size companies. I talk to all different size companies now. I've worked for really large construction companies, and now I work for smaller. I partner with smaller to mid-sized contractors. A lot of guys are just rushing to put in their estimates. They're not going through the specs and the plans. They think it's all typical. I've seen many projects where a single line item was worth $100,000+. If you're not reading through your specs and your plans properly, you're gonna miss those single line items. And you're gonna find out later on when the owner's rep and the inspector says, did you read this one line item? And you're gonna scratch your head and say, no, the estimators missed it. You gotta continuously read specs and plans. I don't care how typical you think that project is. You need to continuously read the specs and plans for each project. You need to understand the nature of that job. The lane closure stipulations if you're out on the roadway. What are the means of egress? There's always different line items that are different for every single project. What are those line items? Next, you're using terrible outsourced estimators. This is more for the smaller contractors who like to outsource a lot of their estimators. They're a dime a dozen. They're all over the place, estimating companies. They really are. You need to really start small with them if you want to go that option. I'm not advising you not to go that way, especially if you're a smaller contractor and you don't have the resources to hire a full-time estimator yet. But you got to be really careful with who you outsource your estimating to. Next, you're bidding work that's not aligned with your strengths. A lot of contractors like to just throw, darts at the wall and see where they land. You need to understand who you are. You need to understand the people that you have currently working for your company. What are their strengths? What are they really good at? What are you good at as an owner as well? And you need to align your bids with your strengths. Because I can guarantee you, most contractors with big pockets have told me that their first couple of jobs where they ventured into a new area, they lost a lot of money, but they had big pockets. So if you're a small to mid-sized contractor, you don't have big pockets. You need to really stay focused on your strengths. If you want to deviate a little bit away from that, consider joint ventures or partnering with somebody who has your skill, who has the talent that you need. But you need to bring something. I think you need to bring something to the table as well to be able to accomplish a successful joint venture as well. So the next one, wrong escalations. You need to know the schedule of the project, right? Escalations are all over the place, especially even including now post-COVID. A lot of contractors just get vendor pricing and they'll just throw in the exact price that they see in that quote. Meanwhile, that quote is for only 30 days. If you're running a 12-month job or your work is done at the end of a specific project that's 2 years down the line, you need to really fully understand the escalations for that particular product. You need to know the lead times as well, because sometimes you need to add additional escalation or additional cost to that material because the lead time doesn't meet the schedule, and now you need to pay them a premium to kind of bump you up in their own internal schedule to get that material on the job site. So you need to be really good at understanding the schedule, when that material is required on that project, and really get good with understanding escalations. And last, you made really bad assumptions without getting clarifications. This is more along the lines of an RFI. Everybody's rushing to pump out bids. You're making assumptions on projects that you think are right? Assumptions are assumptions. Estimates are just estimates. You are relying heavily on the field to kind of get your budgets and beat your budgets all the time. So, there requires a lot of synergy between estimating and project management, which I have other videos and other articles about, which you could check out on my website at www.pro-accel.com. But you need to make good qualified assumptions. And this goes back to my first point, was having a qualified team. Does your team really understand how to build a project? Do they have any kind of field experience? Are you sending them out to the field maybe for a couple of hours once a month to come up with their own production, so they're putting their eyes on productions? You need to make good assumptions. It's really tough to make fantastic assumptions because they are just assumptions, and you're making assumptions by looking at a specs and plans sitting at a desk. And you're making an assumption on what the GC is thinking or what the owner is going to be thinking when you get to that point. So you need to make better assumptions. It's really important, and this is what really closes up the whole assumption point that I'm making. It's really important that when you are a low bidder on a project, to translate those assumptions to your field team. This is why a good kickoff strategy is really important for when you're a low bid on a project. How are your estimators sending off that project to your project management team? They need to give a good presentation and let them know what the assumptions are. Why did you choose those vendors? Why did you choose those subcontractors if you're a GC, or if you're a larger sub and you're subbing some of your work out? Why did you choose that? Those subs. So guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. These are common mistakes that I see in a lot of construction companies, and why a lot of contractors feel that their profits are running away from them towards the back end of their jobs.